Okay, so case study 4 was Sam, Barney and James, and really their issue was about financing growth. One of the things to note about them is they're already trading, they're already a successful business. So really this is about growth funding. So they came up with 4 options. Option A, friends and family. Option B, the banks. Option C, alternative sources. And option D, selling shares, equity to business angels or some other institution. So what do we think about that? Basically, friends and family. Friends and family, I think, is a great way to get your business off the ground, and I know many businesses that have started in that way. So unless your family are particularly wealthy or particularly like taking risks, it's not really a way to grow your business to the next stage. It's more what we'd call kind of seed funding or market test funding.
In this industry, it's a very competitive as a tech startup, and I think borrowing from family and friends should be avoided unless you're 100% sure that you can return the capital, and you wouldn't want to burn any bridges in this early stage. Borrowing from bank is probably very difficult for you guys to do in this early stage, and bank borrowing always comes with some kind of security required and guarantees.
I think time is of the essence. They need to raise finance quickly, and for me, I think, although it's a little bit of a risk, it might seem a bit scary, selling shares to investors would be a really good option for them. The reason I say this is because through investors they might be able to get some really valuable experience to help them manage their growth. When you're running a company which is moving so quickly, I think having a few extra people on board would be really helpful. And also the idea about shares, obviously it's better having a smaller percentage of something large than a big percentage of something small.
2 things hit me very, very quickly. One was borrowing from the bank, and one was giving away equity in the form of shares to potential shareholders or venture capitalists. Those 2 options, personally for me, have always worried me, hence why I have grown my business completely organically. If we haven't had the money to do it, we haven't done it. But that does mean that my business has grown very, very slowly in comparison to how quickly it could have grown should I have had a huge wad of cash to be able to go out and spend and buy more resources with.
The banks. There is a perception that banks won't lend, but banks actually will lend as long as the case is strong enough. And I think in their case it is probably unlikely that they would get significant money, but I do think there are schemes out there that are available, government-backed schemes that the banks deliver. And also there are other lenders who can co-invest with banks, again, typically government or European backed, that it may be possible to put together a package of co-invested funding from banks and others.
Options B and C, which is banks or alternative sources of income like competitions, could be viable routes, but I think potentially a little bit slow in this particular instance, and won't provide any specialist knowledge that may well boost their business to the next level.
So the best options for me is the alternative routes to funding, which could be crowdfunding. That's a good crowdfunding platform based in Leeds called Rebuilding Society, where you can actually list your business and get funding from the community. But my preferred option is actually funding by selling shares. I know that the guys were a bit worried because they never pitched for investment before. However, when you do that, it's a fantastic exercise. You get the chance to put your business in order. You make sure that every single question is answered. And you actually get, if you manage to secure investment, you get someone who's genuinely interested in your business, someone who's not just investing the money, they're actually investing the time, support and network, which is what you need to take it to the next level.
I would actually go with borrowing from friends and family and obtaining funding from alternative sources, and actually that would be my first port of call. In terms of the friends and family, the risk there to your friends and to your family is very high. How could you live with yourself or sleep at night if you lost their money? I mean, that would just be horrendous. So I think there's an element of that they could do potentially in the short term, as long as they were absolutely sure that they'd be able to pay it back. In relation to the alternative means, I would look at crowdfunding. And I would look at a platform that meant that I could go out, I could sell my business, sell the concept, and take small amounts of money from multiple sources, where the risk then to all of those individuals is very minimal, and they are all wanting to invest in my business. That's why they've kind of put 50 quid on the table. So I think that that would be my option, the alternative means for funding.
So D, selling shares to business angels or institutions, that sounds like a really scary place to go. But actually, if you're really serious about what you want to do and you want to take it to the next level, it really is possibly the only way to raise the relevant amount of money. What you get though is important. It's easy to get money, but what you want is money with expertise, and that's one of the things that the guys picked up on. I think it's not so much just about the money, it's about who brings the money. And one of the things I'd certainly be looking to advise them to do is to try and find what I'd call trade finance, i.e. someone who's made money in their industry already and has that money to reinvest, because they bring not only the money, they bring contacts, they bring experience, they bring a great deal of knowledge. So finding somebody who's worked in the taxi industry, built a successful chain of taxi businesses, that kind of thing is the place I'd be looking to try and get my funding from. But I definitely would go down the option D, selling shares.